everyone to welcome everyone. This meeting is being recorded. I'm Terry Price, the chair of the Access to Justice Board. And we have at least one new person, maybe a couple of new people with us. So welcome to Jonathan Whitby, who put in the chat before that he is the new ADA Access Coordinator for the Administrative Office of the Courts. So welcome, and he is here with his interpreter, Abby. Is there anyone else who is new to our meeting who wants to introduce themselves?
Good morning. This is Kara Masters. I've been to some of your meetings, but I haven't been in a while. I'm the current EJC chair, and I use she, her pronouns.
Thank you, Kara. Welcome. Anyone else? All right. So first on our list are the January minutes. They were part of the materials. Are there any amendments, edits to the minutes that anyone would like to raise? Seeing none, can I get a motion from an ATJ board member to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Espy. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Dave. All right, board members in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand. It looks, anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, the minutes pass unanimously. All right, so now we're going to turn over the meeting to Bryn Felix and Mike Chin, who are going to talk about our meeting next month in Port Angeles. So Bryn and Mike.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I had my screen off or my video off. Yes, so on April 25th to the 27th, the ATJ board will be holding our monthly meeting in Port Angeles, Washington, and we will be starting our meeting on Thursday, April 25th, meeting with community partners. And currently, so far, because this is kind of a work in progress, we will be meeting with members of the 3 tribes in the Port Angeles area, which include the Makah tribe, Lower Elwha, Klallam, and Jamestown Sklallam tribes. And then we will also be scheduling a breakout session or another meeting with a couple of the domestic violence groups, which include the Elwha Klallam Tribe Family Advocacy Program and Healthy Families. And there will be some other organizations that might be joining at that time. And in the afternoon, meeting with some legal aid groups that are either members of the Alliance and the pro bono legal organizations in the afternoon. We'll also be holding on Thursday, April 25th from 5 to 7, which will be our equity and justice mixer to be announced where the location will be. And then on Friday, we'll be holding a ATJ board retreat. Did I miss anything, Bryn or Bonnie?
Nope, that sounds great. Thank you, Mike.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Mike and Bryn and Bonnie, for all the work that you've done planning this. This is the ATJ on the road, like we did last year when we went to Wenatchee, and it's an incredible opportunity for us to see how things are going in other parts of the state. And I don't know that we've been to the peninsula in a long time, if ever. All right, turning it over now to SB to talk about our strategic planning update and then our ATJ conference update.
Great. Thank you, Terry. So we are embarking on an effort to develop a strategic plan, a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. This is just to announce that, and that we have a committee, a board committee that is focused on that work. We've received 4 applications, and we'll be reviewing those applications right after this meeting. And it's going to be a busy time. And you'll hear more about it as we go along. So you'll hear a lot more about it because we will be communicating with many of you on how we go forward with the strategic plan and what the ATJ board will look like in 3 to 5 years. So that's that. And the Access to Justice Conference update is we have decided on where this is going to happen. We are going to be in Yakima in 2025. So we're really excited about that. We have the venue, and we are currently recruiting and working to build a team like we had last time, co-chairs, and start that work. And some of you were involved in some of that work. And if you weren't, please consider being involved in the work. Many hands make light work, right? As it said. So we hope that some of you might consider being part of that process. And we will continuously have updates in this board meeting about what's going on with that work. Okay. The other thing I just wanted to add, since I have the floor right now, is that we are currently recruiting 3 new board members. And so if you know of anybody, please help us start getting the word out so that we can start putting names in the hat. The process the application has not gone out yet. We are updating all that information. You'll be getting more information about that. But for now, we really would like your help in suggesting people. If you know of anybody that would be interested, let them know, have them contact Bonnie at the ATJ board so that we can start collecting those names. And we'll be talking about that more later. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, SB. Any questions or comments for SB? And I noticed Bonnie put in the chat, mark your calendars for September 18th and 19th, 2025 for the ATJ conference. Quite exciting. All right, well, now we're going to have a presentation on the Administrative Office of the Courts, Equity and Access Programs 5-year strategic plan. I see Carolyn Cole here. Good morning. Welcome. And so I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Carolyn Cole, pronouns she, her. I am the AOC Court Equity and Access Program Lead. And I am in the Office of Court Innovation. You may have heard of this new office under Cynthia Delestrinos Johnson. And I am just happy to be here today. Thank you so much for just allowing me time on your agenda, and happy Friday. We made it. So there's a lot going on, and I'm so excited to share with you an update on our 5-year strategic plan project. And so it's so exciting to hear that ATJ Board is also going to be undertaking the same project. So I actually am joined here today by Jonathan Whitby. So I just wanted to just give a moment to introduce him to everyone, because he is the new AOC ADA Access Coordinator. So he is filling the position that is required in AOC under actually RCW. But of course, we have this position also to support ADA compliance in the courts. So if you want to just go ahead and wave, Jonathan, even if you want to just say a few words, I'm going to be setting up the slides for today.
Yeah, sure. Hi. I did want to say a couple of words. Sorry, I had a little tech issue. But hi, everybody. This is Jonathan. I am happy to be here at the AOC and also joining you today at this meeting. I've been here for about 2 months now. Still kind of learning the AOC and some different stakeholders. So anyway, I've been really enjoying it. Sometimes it's been a little bit of a tough learning process so far, but it's been good. I come from vocational rehabilitation and I also practice law. I graduated from law school in 2004 and had a private practice within the deaf and hard of hearing community in Pennsylvania. And then I moved over to vocational rehabilitation. I was a VR counselor at the Department of Services for the Blind in Washington State before I moved over here. I would talk about access issues and deal with those things, but mostly in an employment setting. So I'm happy to be here and kind of back to my roots in law, while still also having a chance to kind of really show my motivation and care for access and inclusion. So, all right, I'm done talking now. I'll turn it back over to you, Carolyn.
Okay, thank you. Now, I don't want you all to see my presentation mode. How do I do that? I'm trying to share screen, just, let's see, hiding presenter view. Does that work? I'm not sure. Okay, let's.
So Carolyn, I think you'd want to just go to slideshow and then start the slideshow. Although you might need to
Maybe I might be sharing the wrong screen. So let's change screens.
There you go. That's great.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you to Jonathan. I'm so glad you had a moment to introduce yourself. As you can see, Jonathan is absolutely a subject matter expert in ADA, and we are so glad to have him. So the presentation objectives for today. Let's see. Okay, so now it's not advancing. Okay, we're just going to do this the old school way. Okay. Yes. So the presentation objectives for today, we are here to just share more about our team, our mission and vision, our 5-year strategic plan draft, and the comment period that we have initiated so that we can get more feedback, and our proposed collaborative project actually with the ATJ board. We actually propose a project in it, which I'll just talk about a little bit today, and get your questions and your feedback today. And hopefully a green light if you feel that this is something that you want to be able to provide comment on our strategic plan draft, as well as the specific collaborative project. So a little bit more about our team, and here's our email here. We, again, are in the Office of Court Innovation at AOC. And so you just met Jonathan, but our team is growing. Kaylee Carrillo, you might know her. She is actually our staff person leading the court facilitators program on our team. Robert Lichtenberg, he is the senior court program analyst who is on, who's the staff for the Disability Justice Task Force. So that's the Supreme Court's Disability Justice Task Force. And Kelsey Jandock, she is our staff person helping with the Self-Help Portal project, an online resource that will be on the AOC's external website for self-represented persons to go get, resources they need to be able to represent themselves. And this is a project that really came out of the SCJA's Unrepresented Litigants Work Group. Alexandra Janici, she is more split time between our team and the behavioral health team. She helps with admin support. And then we also have Nishani Jack Gonzalez, who also splits time with the Tribal State Court Consortium, but she's helping us build a tribal relations piece of our program as well. So a little bit about our history and purpose. We were established by AOC in 2021 through a successfully funded decision package in order to really do 2 things. Help courts serve the growing needs of self-represented persons in Washington and address the needs of court users from communities that have been historically marginalized and oppressed in the United States with the least access to justice. And so we do know folks can be in both groups. They can be both self-represented and, let's say, a racialized minority as well. or a person with a disability who also needs to represent themselves in court. So we do use self-represented persons instead of pro se litigants or unrepresented litigants. For us, this is a more plain talk term, right? We're not using the word litigant. It's just a more accessible term for folks who might not be as familiar with legal jargon. It also helps us cast a wider net to really just anybody who has to go to court without an attorney. And for us as well, sometimes the focus is more on the fact that someone lacks an attorney. And in self-represented, that term, it's more the individual is centered. So we are moving forward with self-represented persons, but of course, you know, it might be interchangeable in some cases with unrepresented litigant or pro se litigant. And yeah, that just wanted to make a note of that. We did do an environmental scan first before we really did this strategic planning process. And that was recommended. I believe maybe even ATJ Board recommended us doing an environmental scan because we don't want to duplicate work. AOC, you know, we want to carve out our lane, but we also want to be collaborative. So the environmental scan was really to understand the landscape, understand who's already doing this great work, not just in Washington, but other states as well, who we might need to partner with, and where are some of the recommended areas of focus for AOC. So as you can see on this slide, that environmental scan that was done in 2022, 2023 by Laura Jones at AOC, she recommended 4 focus areas: promoting greater online access to information for court users, improving in-person and online access to the courts for people with disabilities, collecting more robust data related to civil cases to enable evaluation, and developing and providing support, training, resources, and opportunities for collaboration with courts. And so these are, you know, this was kind of like a guide for us of areas that we really needed to incorporate in our strategic plan. And we have done that mainly through just first the strategic priorities. What is our mission and vision? So we had a really great, strong decision package, but we really needed to go through a strategic planning process to really identify our mission and vision. It was not something that was already established in a decision package or predetermined for us. So the team really had an opportunity to just, from what we know and what we've heard from our partners, develop a mission and vision. And quite simply, the mission is to make justice for all a reality in Washington state courts. And the vision for the long term is every person has an equitable opportunity to access the courts. Fairness, justice, inclusion, and belonging are experienced in the courts and through the work of AOC. And this is the logo that I'm lobbying that we try and brand for AOC for our program. You know, justice is at our core, and justice is very much tied to humanity and really just love and empathy. And we are really the helping hands for the court. So you'll see hands here. So our strategic priorities, we identified 6, you know, based on the environmental scan, based on, you know, feedback from stakeholders, more research. And these are really the 6 that we want to start off for the next 5 years. It will continue to be revised, updated as more work is being done and needs continue to change. So the first priority, which is what we were funded for specifically, is increasing access to justice for all with a specific focus on self-represented persons statewide. The second priority, supporting the creation of actually a Washington Supreme Court Disability Justice Commission. So not just stopping at the Supreme Court Disability Justice Task Force and their study that they're undertaking, a statewide disability justice study, but hopefully helping support them one day, actually soon, hopefully being a commission, a dedicated commission to doing this work. And identifying areas of action for AOC to do disability justice work. We know it's important to build strong partnerships, trust, and communication. And state courts, this includes state courts, tribal courts, judicial branch agencies, legal aid organizations, other justice system partners, and communities. This work cannot be done without partnerships, trust, and communication. We are new, so we're going to focus on building our capacity as well, our program for policies, processes, and procedures. And also when you think of our program within AOC, we are really here to help provide technical assistance to courts, helping provide education, research, data development, and evaluation of their progress, of their services and programs as it relates to equity and access to justice. Establishing ourselves as courageous champions of equity and access in the courts is also a strategic priority, especially in the current environment where folks are really kind of politicizing this work, anti-DEI efforts and things like that. This work is still very much important. We want equitable opportunities and outcomes in the courts. So we're not going to stop. We are going to be courageous and we are going to continue moving forward. So that is a priority for us. This is just a high level overview graphic of the proposed milestones over the next 5 years. And that's why we have a comment period, because we're really trying to get feedback and approval before we finalize this plan. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And so some really cool stuff is planned. Again, this is very high level. Once you actually receive the draft, you will get to see more of the different objectives and goals. So, growing our team is part of it. We will have an external website. We will help finish the study, the disability justice study with the Disability Justice Task Force. We hope to create a lot of new cool resources like a court ADA toolkit. And that's why we have Jonathan. He will be helping lead that effort. We are going to be surveying tribal community members in state courts. And that's going to be in partnership to better assess their needs with the Tribal State Court Consortium. We will be proposing updates to GR 27 as it relates to court facilitators. That self-help portal, the version 1.0, we hope to launch by 2026. So you can just take a moment to just look at some of the things and milestones we hope to achieve, but you'll see in bold here, one of the major things we hope to achieve by 2026 is actually creating AOC's statewide action plan to support self-represented persons. That's actually in our decision package. So I know ATJ Board, I believe you all have also a statewide action plan. We would be creating one that is actionable for AOC. This is one that we will be in charge of actually implementing, and we hope to actually collaborate very widely on this and create a very inclusive statewide work group to help develop this action plan. So that is going to be a major piece that you will see in the draft. And so what are we here today to talk about specifically? What are the next steps? Well, we have a comment period. And so the tentative dates hope to initiate this comment period officially next week. We've been gathering comments for the past month already that have already been integrated into the draft. But this is going to be the official comment period with a survey. And the deadline, we are having a goal date of April 5th. Who is getting this survey? Who's getting the draft? It's our key partners and stakeholders, groups and organizations named in the strategic plan draft, those most directly impacted. And we are coordinating with staff for these groups to share the draft, and it will come with a survey, and you can just submit your comments through the survey. So this is a process where we are really asking members of the groups that we're approaching to really respond to the survey just themselves, collect, feedback from their communities that they represent, but really respond on behalf of those communities. This is not a draft that is going to go to just widely everywhere. We wanted to be intentional about being able to present it first before we ask for feedback, so that there's context, that there are opportunities to ask questions, and that we really approach leaders to better understand, feasibility and understand buy-in So this is something I'm going to send. I've connected with Bonnie and Diana, a draft with survey that you all, just as members of the ATJ board, we ask that you please review and submit comments. So what is the specific project, though, in the strategic plan that names ATJ board? So the proposed collaborative project would be that our AOC ADA Access Coordinator, Jonathan Whitby, whom you just met, he would be collaborating with the ATJ board as a resource to update the great guide, the Ensuring Equal Access for People with Disabilities guide that has been used extensively across the state, but hasn't been revised since 2011. And the goal would be to complete that project by end of 2027. So this is something that is a little bit of a ways off, but I think it will be important because it'll be close to, I think, 16 years before the last revision. But we want to do the revision correctly. So this is a proposed project, and I am here to just take your questions and thank you for your support.
Great. Thank you, Carolyn. If you want to stop sharing your screen, are there questions or comments for Carolyn? SB.
Yes, Carolyn, thank you very much. That was a very helpful presentation to get a kind of a bird's eye view of the work that you have all done, and congratulations. That's a lot of work. Would be great if we could, maybe you could send that PowerPoint. I was trying to take notes as you were talking, simply because, as you know, we're going to be doing our own strategic plan, and learning from what others have done is very helpful. I guess my question would be, in the process that you've gone through, what did you find to be the most challenging in all of that? And how did you all overcome that up to this point? And that, not to say that there won't be more challenges, right? There's going to be a lot.
Yeah, no, I've done the strategic planning process very many times with different organizations. And so it's always different because it is coordinating and facilitating with different teams. So it's not going to be the same experience every time you try to do a strategic plan. But I would say really just prioritizing certain things first. You know, in the work that we do, the problems are very great, right? The disparities continue to widen and the sense of urgency is very high. So sometimes we want to do more than what we can actually do. And in that, when we're in that scenario, it's no longer strategic anymore. We're just operating based on just like reaction. We're not, you know, being strategic, being kind of proactive and really thinking about building capacity at the same time. You know, we're doing this work on a volunteer basis. Like that's another thing too, is being limited by resources. So part of what's actually built into our strategic plan is to actually get more resources. That's why it's one of the strategic priorities. So we will be submitting a decision package request specifically to help implement this 5-year plan. So we can get more support, like other staff positions and other funding that might be needed to do other activities. So that's I think important, is strategically thinking about resource limitations, and also, you know, we can't do everything within 5 years. What does need to be put up front first? That's gonna make really the most impact and give you a foundation for later. So I think that sometimes are the top struggles, especially working in like government, public interest. So. Mm-hmm.
Other questions or comments for Carolyn?
Can I just ask if that PowerPoint is accessible somewhere outside of this presentation?
Yes, I will share it with Bonnie and Diana to share with you all.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Other.
Well, and I can add one more thing too. It's the I think the difficulty too is just making sure that we're doing things that actually are needed or in response to feedback we received from directly impacted people. That also is a challenge because there's not a lot of trust built in to government. At least in our position, we are government. We are the ones who perpetuate harm. And so to ask folks to say, hey, in what ways have you been harmed by us? We're going to try and fix ourselves. You really have to really build trust. And we're still not really there yet. I'm going to be quite honest. AOC doesn't have that community relationship and trust yet. Again, that's why it's a strategic priority. So to really say, hey, the strategic plan really represents everything we've heard from community members who've been harmed. No, the environmental scan only went so far. As we move along, this plan has to be updated to reflect the better relationships we have with community, the more trust we gain as we do this strategic plan. It might take a different direction based on what we heard, but at least we're starting off somewhere and making it a priority to get the community's feedback and make it sure that the plan is driven by them.
Thank you.
That raises another question for me, if that's okay.
Yes.
If there are community members who want to give feedback, where do they go?
Yes, so I would encourage them to give you the feedback and you submit it on their behalf.
Couldn't make out what you said.
Or
They approach you.
Where would we submit it then?
I'm going to give you a survey link.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Via email.
so I'm wondering if that survey link could go out to the ATJ community listserv. Is that?
Yeah, I leave it to Bonnie and Diana. We were hoping to maybe get the members first, really, because I don't know who all is on that listserv. It seems like a very, very wide listserv, and folks wouldn't have had the benefit of this presentation. So I think it might be best to, if there are folks on the listserv, if you all could connect with them and then relay their comments. The concern is AOC would be sending a draft that then has it's just circulated widely with no real context. So I think the request was just to send it to members, but if there's other folks that you want to get in contact with and complete the survey with their input, we definitely are welcome to that. Yes.
Mike.
Yeah, as you were sharing your PowerPoint, I'm just thinking about some of the things as we're going through our strategic plan. And the question I have for you is around the mission, vision, and values. Did you spend a lot of time working through those? And how, and were you engaging community at that stage? Because I assume that you're probably thinking about like engaging communities along the way, and who is that community that you are engaging with? I mean, do you see it mostly with legal professionals or people who have experienced the legal process? And how did you also circle back to communities about kind of feedback around those mission, vision, values? Because I think starting there is kind of the anchor. I mean, and that really kind of drives what the strategic plan looks for that 3 to 5 year period.
Yeah. So the mission, vision, values, like portion of this planning was quite long, very intentional, and we deliberated a lot as a team. And we took our time. We didn't try to rush this process. But I think a lot of it was not only the decision package, but also all of us on the team are the folks who have worked directly. Many of us have worked directly with community members, whether it's people with disabilities making complaints against the courts or our different agencies. Kaylee, for example, has worked in the court as a court facilitator, as well as lead the advisory team. So court facilitators have been telling us about what clients, self-represented persons are encountering. So we try to incorporate all of that The SCJ Unrepresented Litigant Work Group is another advisory group that also relayed a lot of the information that they did through their stakeholdering. So what we did, because we're kind of still new, is went to other advisory groups who've already done stakeholdering and then asked them for what they've heard from community members, real actual clients that, you know, come to the court asking for self-help assistance. We asked the self-help centers. They see hundreds of people. There's one in Grays Harbor, as well as the Spokane Community Org Self-Help Center. So we heard what they were saying as they are helping real actual court users. We use that to help develop our mission, vision, values. Yeah. So I would highly recommend, because there's actually a lot of folks who work directly, right, with SRP, self-represented persons. They're already established groups. It would be great to just go to them and really ask them, what have you heard from the clients you've worked with?
And that would be part of the scanning process that you did. So you did the scanning to get feedback on the mission, vision, values, and then that scanning was also to help inform the strategic plan.
Well, the scan was already done. Then we started working on mission, vision, values.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the scan. It was already completed before I was hired. The strategic planning process really started once I was hired.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions or comments for Carolyn?
What about the project? Any comments on the proposed project, the update to the guide? Is that something of interest?
Don't all answer at once.
Yes, it is. I think it's interesting. I think it's great.
Yeah,
I will say that I think any guide that that the courts can look to is always helpful. I cite to the bench books and guides like that all the time, and I think oftentimes it's well taken by judicial officers who are not going to be subject matter experts pretty much ever.
Yes. And I think it's still that particular guide is still being downloaded, because it's on our AOC website as well. It's downloaded pretty often, and it's still being referred to. So we want to make sure that we can provide this, on our end, we have direct access to the judges and court staff, really educating them from a guide that's been revised, is more current. And of course, now that we have Jonathan, that's another resource to help and work with ATJ Board.
SB.
Yeah, I think that your work in updating that guide is really, really important, because you mentioned that by the time it's revised, it'll be 16 years since it's been revised. And a lot has happened in 16 years. There are new laws, and there are actually new laws that have gone away in 16 years, right? It's not just new laws created, but laws that are no longer in existence. So it helps not just for court advocates or people that work in the courts to use that guide, but for community members to know what that guide says, so that when they have to deal with the courts, they have something that they can use that advocates for them, that will support them, and that Jonathan's there to strengthen that, and basically make it plain, in plain language, what they can do to be supported and feel included. So it's really, really pivotal in terms of this area. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. Agreed.
I will, seeing no hands, I'll just jump in. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not the board. I am more curious about the self-help portal and what that's going to do. And I have said this before in other meetings, we've heard this from self-represented litigants. If you want to help self-represented litigants, they need to have one common login and password for all of the courts in the state of Washington, not this, if they have matters in more than one county, then they've got to learn different logins, passwords, and local rules. And we were last year when the ATJ board was in Wenatchee with NJP and the Attorney General's office that covers 8 or 9 counties. It was the local rules that were killing them. Your comment at the very beginning, which is that the government is also causes trauma, that resonated with me. So if there was a way to just banish local rules, that would be a huge one. But I am curious more about the self-represented portal. I know that Snohomish County has an excellent model for that.
Yes, so it was a project that was out, really kind of initiated by the SCJA's Underrepresented Litigant Work Group. It is one of their subcommittees to work on this project, but they really didn't have any capacity to execute, and they needed to have a home for this portal, which would now be the AOC's external website. So we have, folks representing NJP, the Washington Law Help. We have other folks representative on that committee as well, to make sure that what we provide is one that we, is really AOC value add. We don't want to duplicate or do away with necessarily Washington Law Help, but we want to help contribute to this process. And one way that we can do that really is what you're saying, Terry, is the issue of like filing with courts. I think filing with courts is a major thing that AOC can really help think of a solution around. In a non-unified court system, doing our best to try and figure out a solution around that. There is already initiatives in AOC to do an e-filing system that would be available through our website. So we're trying to now figure out how we might collaborate projects so the e-filing could be built into this self-help portal. So that's just a thought, an idea. We have not yet determined the full scope of what will be on the self-help portal. We would be creating a project plan once we get everybody who needs to be involved on that project plan and proposing it and seeing if we missed anything within the scope of this portal. But that right now is kind of the vision. It would be a simple way for someone to one-stop shop, be guided through all stages of their case and get what they need, and it be accessible for people whose primary language is not English, and for people with disabilities, that the portal really be accessible to all. But the scope hasn't been determined yet. So we would love input on, what should be on the self-help portal. What functions should it have?
Well, best of luck with that.
Well, we're going to come back. We're going to come back. This is not it. We're going to be asking for your input on this, that specific project.
I see another question. Yes. Go ahead.
Has there been any, I don't know, effort doesn't seem like the right word, but whatever, to build on resources that are out there like Washington Law Help and things like that have already done some of this work and that are doing, good work, but could really be brought together in sort of a wraparound, like the portal could really be like a wraparound service for things like the Law Help and the law libraries, which are providing a lot of these resources on a one-off basis.
Yes, so they're represented on that work group as well, the SCJA's Unrepresented Litigant Work Group, the law libraries, as well as Washington Law Help. So they're right at the table, and our understanding is that, we're not here to duplicate, but yes, connect to Washington Law Help in some way. So if folks maybe can't find what they need on Washington Law Help, we're providing some other gap filling sort of function or information, and they can seamlessly get referred to our website taken to our website, or vice versa. But the goal is not to just to duplicate and take over what has been done well by Washington Law Help and others. So that is, the conversations have already started. We will be connecting with those online resources as well, so that folks can move between our resources in a way that makes sense in real life. And that will require user testing. So we will be doing real user testing on with real court user volunteers. Well, they'll be compensated. I shouldn't say volunteers. They will be users who are compensated to test it. And they will be, and it's going to be a diverse group of testers. It will be people with disabilities, people with language access needs, and other, court users, people who maybe don't have internet, digital access. How does it work for you on your phone? How does it work for you at the library? Right? So we want to simulate real scenarios with real court users, and see if it's accessible to all.
My
And the
understanding,
plain talk piece is really important.
sorry. My understanding from the Washington Law Help people, first of all, it would be, we all acknowledge, a waste of time and energy and money to duplicate what they do. But the piece is the last 5 feet problem is that they have the forms, they can fill out the forms, but it is getting the electronic signature, getting local courts to accept an electronic signature and not require self-represented litigants to submit a wet signature. And that is an administrative office of the court's rule. That is, maybe local as well. And so clarifying the signature piece would substantially help local self-represented litigants. And so there's many pieces of this, and perhaps one day I can buy you lunch, which would make up for the fact that I'm going to bend your ears so far that you're going to wish that I would stop talking.
No,
So,
this is great. I'm actually would refer you to Kaylee, or excuse me,
yes,
Kelsey Jandock. She's the AOC staff person helping with that project on our team. So she would love to connect with you and get more of your feedback for this project.
super. All right, unless there are any other comments or questions for Carolyn and Jonathan. Well, thank you so much for coming. And thank you, Abby. And we will go on to the next part of our agenda.
Okay, and is it okay if I just kind of listen in and stay? Is this a public?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to learn more.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure how long we have our interpreter, but feel free also if you'd like to stay.
This is our public portion of our board meeting, so absolutely open to everybody.
Yeah, this is Jonathan. Abby is working alone today, so I probably will excuse myself around 11, but thank you for the invitation to stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have an update on the EJC, the Equal Justice Coalition, from Alex Diaz. That's not Alex. There you are.
Okay. Hi, Terry. Hi, everyone. So the EJC has been working over the last couple of months to gather information from all of our programs. We sent out a survey. We had a stakeholder meeting in February, and we've just been kind of trying to figure out what all of our programs' priorities and needs are. And part of this is because we are working in collaboration with OCLA as they develop their 2025-2027 biennial budget request. And we actually hosted a joint priority session meeting yesterday with our programs and with Sarah. And we discussed a drafted request. And then we had our programs talk about the needs and concerns that they are facing. We're still in the process of gathering hard data to solidify the amount that we're going to request in our ask. But I think we had a really good conversation with Sarah. There were some really good questions that were raised. And we also came up with a plan to also meet with OCLA again to go over an overview of their current budget and their programs. And then we're also going to continue finding ways to share information better between the EJC and Oakland in like a more collaborative and effective way. So I'm really excited about this process, and there'll probably be some more updates in the next couple of months, especially probably around like May or June related to that. So yeah. And then on the federal side, the EJC is once again going to DC in April for the ABA's annual lobby days to lobby for increased funding for the Legal Services Corporation. And we're taking a group of 8 advocates, and I'm excited to share that we're bringing Francis Adewale with us this year. So it'll be his first time coming with us. And yeah, so look forward to sharing more about how that trip goes when we get back. And hopefully we'll have some photos. And yeah, that's all I really have for you today, though. We didn't have a budget request in this past session, so I don't have like an update from the 2024 session to share.
Well, thank you. Bringing Francis Adewale with you is bringing all the guns. So they will not
Yeah,
be
I'm
able
excited.
to resist him. They will not be able to resist him. All right. And Kara, did you want to add anything about about the EJC?
Well, just a quick update. And Alex, have you already shared with this group the exciting news of your new position?
Well, I could share it now. Caitlin was going to share it in a little bit, but I can go ahead and share it. I actually am moving into another role at LFW as the annual campaign director. So this is actually my last week technically in this role with the EJC, though I'm going to play a really huge part in transitioning and onboarding the new person who will be staffing the EJC. So you'll likely still be hearing from me for a little bit longer. But yeah, I'll also be attending these meetings to give the campaign updates. But yeah, it's been great working with all of you in this capacity, and thanks, Kara, for prompting me to share that news.
Well, I want to thank you, and and let this group know that we'll be recruiting in a couple of months, and we're really excited for Alex and really excited that she's going to help us with the transition. So thanks.
Congratulations, Alex. Very exciting. I don't see Cesar, but I do see Sarah. So, and again, congratulations on finishing the session.
Thanks. Sarah Robbins, Director at the Office of Civil Legal Aid. Yeah, we had well, I'll talk about the session that just ended first. So I pretty much started this job coinciding with the first day of legislative session. So it was a wild ride. So we had two relatively small asks for this supplemental budget session. The first being a increase in our eviction defense right to counsel, adding 10 additional attorney lines to handle the significant increase that we've seen in eviction filings. We got those additional 10 attorney lines. However, they were not funded on an ongoing recurring basis in our budget. So we, if filings stay where they are at, which is depending on what county you look at, but overall is over 50% increase statewide from pre-pandemic levels. Some counties over 100% increase. So if filings stay at this rate, or I really hope they couldn't possibly go up anymore, then for next session, we're going to have to make another ask, and we would have to include those 10 onto what our base budget is. So a little bit of to be determined. Glad we have them now. We're getting them to, we're getting all of that contracted out right now, across the state. The other ask was, a continuation of our Blake, our Blake funds and adding 2 additional, attorney positions to handle Blake, both civil, civil help on vacatures and also on, legal financial obligation relief. We got that funding. The way that the legislature has structured, the Blake funds, we have to ask for those, each, sorry, we've had to ask for that each session, so we got our funding along with the 2 additional FTEs, and we are working on getting those, contracted out for fiscal year 25. And then the other piece that was part of Department of Commerce ask, so Okla gets a small amount of foreclosure money to do statewide foreclosure legal aid work at Northwest Justice Project. That comes through an interagency agreement with Commerce. Unfortunately, that was not fully funded. Commerce had asked for 7 million, and that is split between legal aid and housing counseling, 3 different agencies. And we ended up getting 3.6 million. So we are meeting with the Department of Commerce next week to find out what that means for foreclosure, legal aid. So a little bit of to be determined of whether there are any additional funds or how that money will be allocated between housing counseling and legal aid. So overall, the session went well, other than the foreclosure work. We are working on our biennial budget request, or budget, and any decision packages we'll be putting forward. I actually just learned this morning that I have to get all of my decision packages and information into the judicial branch in June. So my timeline just moved up a little bit further than I thought. I mean, I knew I had to work quickly, but as Alex said, we met with EJC yesterday to hear from the legal aid community on what the biggest needs are. We will meet with NJP and the EJC separately to talk about that. And, we will have to balance, going into this budget, what is going to be possible with a lot of things that are unknown for next session. We will have a new legislative makeup. We will have a new governor. We have some initiatives on the November ballot that affect the state budget. We have a presidential election at the federal level. We just have a lot of things that are unknown that will affect the state budget. So I think I am working on multiple iterations of a budget, depending on all of different things happen, but I'm definitely committed to having open communication with the legal aid community on addressing needs, and also how we're coming to particular decisions.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Sarah, for that update. And yes, it's good. Did you use the word cataclysmic? Because it's the end of the year is going to be a lot of shuffling around. Yes, and we're here to support Okla. Caitlin, I see a little, you've unmuted, so please jump in.
I've unmuted and unpictured in hopes of better internet access. Thanks. I know that we're at the end of the tail end of your meeting, so I'll keep it quick, but I do have a lot to share with you, and it'll just be I'll just hustle, okay? First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming to the Goldmark Luncheon last month. It was so great to see everyone, all 750 of you or so. And thank you for coming to help celebrate Jorge and learn from Jeff Robinson. And together we raised almost $450,000. So that'll go a long way in you know, providing legal services both now and in the years to come. That the morning of the luncheon, LFW had, as it usually does, its first board meeting of the year, and the board voted to adopt a couple of really exciting new grant initiatives, and I wanted to share those with you real quick. First of all, and this is live right now, the board voted to expand our race equity focused legal aid programming in Central Washington with an initial commitment of $300,000. The application is open right now. It's on our website at legalfoundation.org, and there's a deadline of April 3rd. So please, if you are in a situation where you might help us with that goal of expanding services in a much needed area of the state, go to our website and check it out. The contact information for our grants team is right there. The other big thing that the board agreed to do was to launch a 3-year, $4 million Native American grant opportunity to build much needed legal aid infrastructure in Indian country here in Washington state. And we're still at the very beginning of figuring out what this project looks like. We're working with outside experts to help us sort of think through what this grant opportunity could mean. It's bigger than what we internally as staff can do. And so we're counting on existing service providers as well as some other folks and organizations that haven't traditionally provided services in that space to come up with something great, as well as relying on the expertise of the community. So that's a little further out from being implemented than the grant in Central Washington, but I wanted to flag both of those decisions for the ATJ community, so you have a sense of where LFW is going with some of its additional IOLTA resources. And then lastly, thank you, Kara and Alex, for leading us off. I just wanted to share some exciting news about promotions internally at LFW. As announced, Alex Diaz is going to be our new director of the campaign for equal justice, starting immediately, I hope, but again, wrapping up that her work that she's already leading on the communications and the Equal Justice Coalition front. Gervasio Saprissa Uribe is going to be our new engagement and event manager. Many of you know Ariel Handforth from our grants team. She is being promoted from grants coordinator to grants manager, and is in addition to her existing portfolio of responsibilities, she is taking on staff leadership for our Goldmark internship program. So if you work with law students, or you work at a legal aid program that might be interested in having an intern in the future, now you know to reach out to Ariel. And then finally later, this isn't happening quite yet, but later this summer, Katie Karcher, who works primarily on the Endowment for Equal Justice, is going to be promoted to Major Gifts Officer with the endowment as they move towards launching a big capital campaign in 2025. All of this is great news, and it does mean that we have a couple of jobs coming up at LFW that will be vacant. As Kara and Alex noted, the communications manager position will be open in the next couple months, and we'll also be hiring for a development coordinator. So keep your eyes open if either of those opportunities are of interest to you. Of course, we'll post them to the listserv as well as other, places where we post those announcements. Okay, I hope I kept it quick enough, Terry. If anyone
Caitlin,
has
that was, well, you had so much happening. You brought it all together, and congratulations on an incredibly successful Goldmark lunch.
Thank you.
It's truly it's a highlight of the year.
Thanks.
All right, in our remaining minutes, are there any other announcements? As Mike said and Bryn said early on, we are going to Port Angeles next month. So Bonnie, will that be available online, or we will come back in May in a public session?
Back in May for the public session.
So back in May for the public session. So the only other announcement that I have is SB?
Yeah, I have an announcement.
Okay.
I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but Terry is rolling off as the chair of the Access to Justice Board, and I'll be coming in next month as the new chair. But I wanted to express just profound gratitude for Terry's leadership, his sense of humor, his passion and compassion around this work. And he led us through several big initiatives during his tenure. And I'm going to rely on him to help support me in some of the big initiatives that we have coming up during the next year. And I just wanted to Terry, you've done a fabulous, fabulous job, and you're not done. Terry rolls off the board in October, and we need to make sure and squeeze every ounce of passion and knowledge and work out of this man. And he's recognized not just in the legal community for the work he's doing, but also in the academic community at the University of Washington. They recognize his leadership. And so we're very fortunate to have him on the board and to have him involved in so many ways. And I could go on and on and on, but I thought we couldn't end this meeting without recognizing the contributions that Terry has made and will continue to make. So thank you. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, SB, so much. I was going to say that I was going to hand pass the gavel to you, but I couldn't find a gavel, so I found a flashlight. So shine light, find justice, and you are going to be you're going to bring so much as chair of the Access to Justice Board. I'm so happy. All right, on that note, I think we are done for today. So we will see you back here in May, and we will be reporting back on what looks to be an incredible agenda for our Port Angeles meetings. So take care, everyone, and enjoy the sun.